Before we get started, let's talk a little bit about Zap. I know many of you have tuned into our prior webinars and likely know the role Zap and our Zap Data Hub platform plays, with data analytics for mid-market ERPs like D365, Sage, SysPro, SAP Business One, a range of other ERPs, other CRM apps, and a whole bunch of other data that businesses have available to them. We are really fortunate to have customers in over 45 countries. And equally, we're fortunate to have local staff in these regions to support not only our customers, but our partners as well. There's really nothing better for us than to share a webinar like this, where we get the opportunity to include the voices of our customers. So let's talk a little bit about our panel for today. It's great to have AJ Wells and Sons with us today on our webinar. We will hear directly from Rob Holgate in just a moment, but Rob and the team at AJ Wells and Sons came to us needing a better data platform to support their reporting initiatives out of SysPro, Dynamic CRM, and a desire to visualize their data in Power BI. If you want to learn more about AJ Wells and Sons, we also have a full case study of the work that we did with them on the zapbi.com website. So we'll hear from Rob in just a moment, but let's talk about the next panelist. So Jason Brown and the team at Microscooters are a customer in the Asia Pacific or APAC region here at Zap. They've been a customer of ours for quite some time, and I'm really excited to hear more about Jason's comments as part of our panel today. Microscooters came to us with a need for better data management and reporting on Sage 300. As you'll likely hear from Jason, it's been a mutually beneficial experience working with this team around global company issues such as multiple operating entities, foreign currency and currency conversion in their financial reporting, plus overall general accessibility of data. So we'll hear from Jason in a moment, but let's briefly talk about our next panelist. Smithies is a wonderful global customer of ours who offer a highly unique range of products, but we'll leave it to Chris to describe that to all of you. Chris and his team sought us out as they were looking for a better solution to work with their Microsoft Dynamics ERP and really enable a rich Power BI experience. We've really had an excellent time working with the Smithies team, enabling their solution and working closely with Chris, and are really glad to have him here today as part of our panel. So rather than talk about these customers further, let's hear from them in their own voices. A big thank you to Rob, Jason, and Chris for participating in our webinar. Rob, could you please get us started introducing AJ Wells and Sons and yourself?
Sure. My name is Rob Holgate. I work for a company called AJ Wells and Sons, which is based in the UK on the Isle of Wight. We specialise in manufacturing log burners, which actually are all British made in our factory. And we also have an engineering side of our business, working with various products, but we're most well known for making a lot of the signs for the London Underground. So I came into the business just over a year ago now as a head of finance. So I look after the accounts team, but I also get quite heavily in the systems implementation to go on this.
Thank you, Rob. Jason, could you introduce yourself and your company as well?
For sure. Look, name's Jason Brown. I'm General Manager for Microscooters. So we have distribution rights for New Zealand and Australia. The parent company is a Swiss-based company. So as I said, distribution rights for New Zealand and Australia, which means that we have two accounting entities set up with obviously both in different currencies, and we have both an online presence as well as sales to the wholesale trade in both countries, and in New Zealand we also have a retail store presence. So yeah, that's how we operate.
Excellent, Jason. All right, Chris, please tell us a little bit more about yourself and Smithies.
Hi there, I'm Chris Smith. I am the business analyst here at Smithies. Founded in 1894, we are the oldest and largest family-owned fancy dress company in the world. We pride ourselves on our innovation being first to market and also our next day delivery. This is achieved through our strategically placed DCs throughout the world. And these DCs ship over 7,000 SKUs to 5,000 customers in 40 different countries. This provides the business with a lot of data. Therefore, my role and responsibility within the organisation is to deliver accurate value-adding analysis within a timely manner. And this is achieved through a team of analysts using the latest technology and methods.
Wonderful, guys. Thank you very much. Let's talk a little bit about today's format and topics, and then we'll get right into it. So for today's format, we're going to pose a series of questions to Rob, Jason, and Chris. They'll be answering based on their own experiences with data and analytics within their ERP environments, across the full spectrum of Sage 300 and SysPro and the Dynamics platforms, as well as some talk about Power BI. After we've had the opportunity to engage with them, we'll do a software spotlight on the Zap Data Hub product. And as we go through this, if you have questions of your own, feel free to use the Q&A panel, or more importantly, reach out to us later, because we'd be really happy to help you understand some of our other customer experiences beyond the three panelists today. So the key topics we're going to cover today with Rob, Jason, and Chris about their three companies are the decision process they went through to choose automation of their data platform. We'll talk to them about some of the things that appealed to them as they saw their progress really accelerate around data and analytics. We'll also talk with them about the full range of changes that going through this process really introduced to their organizations. And then lastly, we'll get some advice and hear from them on how we should focus, or how you potentially as a prospective customer might want to focus on what you need to do well, as well as any other piece of advice that they might want to share. And again, we'll conclude with our Zap Data Hub software spotlight. And of course, we'll go to the questions and answers that you post throughout. So we're really looking forward to today. And without any further ado, let's get straight into the topics. Okay, Rob, could you explain to us the decision process that AJ Wells and Sons went through, or that ultimately led you to automation of your data management and analytics?
Yeah, so it was born out of frustration, really, of our existing ERP, which, although handled the manufacturing of things very well, was very poor when it came to reporting in a more of a modern environment that could get the information out quickly across the business. So it was identifying that need that business users were desperate for information, but were waiting for a long time for that. So we tried looking at it ourselves. We tried doing some data warehousing and doing some Power BI reporting, which worked quite well on the sales when you needed some nice flashy looking graphs, but was not as mature when it came to the financial P&L balance sheet side of reports. And then we kind of hit a bit of a brick wall when it came to internal resource to be able to deliver the product that we wanted quickly. So on that basis, we just decided that actually buying a more mature product from people who've been through the same process many times before would help us get along that road a lot quicker.
So Jason, I know that Microscooters conducted an evaluation as you looked to Zap and potential other products, but can you explain why you were looking for a solution and how you made your decision?
Yeah, look, we're on Sage 300. It's not a very user-friendly ERP to get reporting out of. As such, we didn't have a very strong suite of any dashboards or reports for use in the business. So we went through a bit of a journey to work out how we could tap that information. We looked at trying to create data warehouses and cubes, etc. We also looked at a couple of other reporting options off the shelf. And then we came across Zap and had some product demos teed up with, I guess, a sales account person, but also with a technical lead. And that technical lead's actually still with us today as support. He was very impressive through the journey of, I guess, of onboarding us and understanding our business needs and where we were wanting to go. So we felt quite aligned around what we were needing and the fit for this as a solution for our business.
So Chris, knowing some of the backstory, I know that you were previously with Smithies and you helped build out a solution for them. You left the organization and then you came back. So when you rejoined, I'm just curious, what were the options you considered and what contributed to your decision to automate your data platform?
I left the business and upon my return 4 years later, we were still using the same database that I helped create all them years ago. This database was very temperamental. It used to crash most nights, and it only included the very basic transactional data. The business had grown massively in this time, and it had completely outgrown the metrics and the quality of the analysis that this data set could provide it. So I created a business case and went to the board of directors with the plan to create a world-class reporting solution which matched the needs of an industry-leading organisation. So my business case boiled down to two options really. One was to create the SQL database ourselves from scratch, like we did 4 years previous to this, or get an out-of-the-box solution. After doing research on both of the options, I soon realised that the out-of-the-box solution fitted our needs as a flexible, dynamic business the best. And then after a few meetings with Zap, I decided that Zap was the organisation that we should use because they were understanding of our customisations, and they were a team of people that were really helpful from the outset and did their absolute best to help us to get us up and running as quickly and as effectively as possible.
So that's a few different perspectives on deciding to automate their data platform. I imagine many of you in the audience can relate to some of the comments that we heard. Things like our ERP was poor in reporting and business users were desperate for information, or that they hit a brick wall with internal resources. Lots of real challenges there in terms of having the knowledge to get the information out of complex applications like ERP and present it back in a very user-friendly way to business users who continuously have a diversity of interests and things that they simply need to see. Other comments we heard were that they went through a journey to figure out how to get information from an ERP that was not easy to get the reporting from. That's a really good parallel between, even if you have reporting, it doesn't necessarily mean that you have information and insight. And so the combination of Zap Data Hub in this particular case with tools like Power BI allowed for not only to have a solid data platform, but also the analytics that supported the exploration. Last comments that we heard were that the internal solution was temperamental and the database processes would crash, and that they had outgrown the solution they had built. And that's pretty common. You know, a lot of you as customers or prospective customers are sitting on potentially mid-market ERPs that maybe have gotten a little bit bigger, a little bit less wieldy than they were previously, and as a result, you know, you are seeing some challenges in terms of how do you continue to maintain the reporting investments that maybe you made decisions for at the same time you bought the ERP many years ago, and that's where Zap Data Hub and a data platform that sits alongside of your ERP certainly helps out in quite a bit. And then lastly, you know, the comment that an out-of-the-box solution could fit their needs. So they went through the due diligence experience and the good process of understanding what it was that Zap Data Hub and other solutions had to offer. And as you heard from them, they made some decisions. So for those of you that are not familiar with Data Hub, let's take a look at the next slide here and just talk just briefly about what it is that Data Hub does. So here we have a graphic for the Zap Data Hub product, and really that's intended to be as straightforward as you see on the screen in front of you. Zap Data Hub sits squarely in the middle, and what we do with the Data Hub platform is we talk intelligently to our smart data sources around Microsoft Dynamics, SAP Business One, Sage, and SysPro. And then we also support the inclusion of other sources of data, such as CRM applications, other cloud-based applications, as well as other traditional data sources and maybe some non-traditional data sources like Excel. Once we have the data all together in the Data Hub environment, that really supports the use of our prepackaged analytical content that comes out of the box. And so you've heard some of the panelists talk a little bit about the out-of-the-box nature of some of the things that we do. Essentially, we have 3 different ways that you can visualize the data from your ERPs. Zap has our own visualization layer, which we have built and been using for a number of years, but we also equally and quite frankly robustly support Power BI and Tableau as visualization platforms with prepackaged analytical content freely available out in the Microsoft AppSource solution portfolio if you're using Power BI. So let's get back to the topics and talk a little bit with our panelists about the appeal of accelerating their progress once they got into the analytics solution. So I think if any of us have ever tried to report off of or interrogate the information within ERPs, we know that the combination of doing BI reporting plus potentially data warehousing can be incredibly hard. And therein lies some of the appeal of obviously using a tool set like Zap Data Hub to accelerate aspects of the progress. So one of the questions we posed to each of the panelists are there any key characteristics of using data management software for your ERP that you would like to highlight? So let's go ahead and let's see what Rob has to say on that matter.
I think, again, it was just having that mature product that did everything that we wanted. We had a good discovery session with the consultants who worked with us in the implementation phase later on, and all of our requirements that we laid out to him in terms of reporting from a financial, sales, production, other side of things. They were reports that they'd built before, they were within ERPs that they'd worked with, so it was just having that comfort that they were actually able to deliver what the SAP product said it could deliver. Actually speaking to people doing it, it was things that they had done before. So yeah, just having somebody who had done it before was quite appealing to us, and being able to get a lot farther, a lot quicker.
That's really excellent, Rob. Let's go ahead and see what Jason has to say about the key characteristics of using data management software for their ERP that he'd like to highlight.
Yeah, look, I guess we were sold on the basis that it was going to have a standard suite of reports and dashboards that should come out of the box as such once the initial integration was in. So we felt like we would get a bit of a leap start with a set of reports that would get us going without having to build everything from scratch. Kevin, the lead, understood our needs around the dual companies that we had set up, the dual foreign currencies, and that we were wanting to obviously consolidate those into New Zealand consolidated group reporting, etc. So, look, historically we had quite a mash of reporting. It was a little bit cumbersome. It was not that accessible to people in the business, and very hard to create additional reports and dashboards that we needed. So we felt like we were going to get quite a reasonable, quick out of the gate set of reports that would work for us.
Thank you for that, Jason. Yes, indeed. We know that there were definitely some challenges that you just relayed, and certainly one of the things that we took a lot of pride in was being able to provide the standard out-of-the-box analytics using the ZAP product itself for Sage 300 in the case of microscooters. So let's turn to Chris and learn a little bit more about the things that they did, particularly as it relates to not only ZAP Data Hub, but Power BI as well.
So there were two main characteristics to why I chose that. The first one was the speed of implementation. So during the proof of concepts, I soon realised that we'd be able to get a lot of the KPI reports out within a matter of weeks of going live on ZAP. I thought that was such a big deal for myself and the team, that we could show the business an output within such a short period of time. This really helped with generating the culture that we were trying to achieve of having a world-class reporting tool. And it really helped when we were scoping out the different departmental needs, as they were able to see an output of what we're trying to achieve. The second characteristic is the ZAP team. So it's all well and good having a good product and fantastic technology, but if you don't have the team to back it up, then it doesn't really mean anything. ZAP certainly has that. They've really helped us over the last couple of years, and they've always been there at the end of an email or the end of a phone, and they will help you straight away, which has been absolutely fantastic and has really helped push us on within the project and to where we are today.
Well, that's definitely a lot of positives there, Chris. Thank you very much for that. So let's take a moment and just summarize real quickly, if we can, what we heard from our different panelists about this topic. So, in summarizing and looking back, we have been incredibly fortunate to work with AJ Wells in delivering prepackaged analytical content around SysPro for them, and doing the same thing for microscooters around Sage 300, and then in the case of Smithy's, the Microsoft Dynamics platform. In really all of the cases, there were other line of business data, specific applications like Dynamics CRM, and even things like Excel that they chose to include as individual companies in their solution. And in all cases, they had a quick data warehouse, in which case they could actually build upon with the prepackaged analytical content that they were using, as well as their own capabilities around tools like Power BI. And so we're really, obviously proud of the fact that we provided them with the path to support moving between the versions of those ERP platforms, giving them the opportunity to explore other reporting tools like Tableau or Power BI in this particular case. At Zap, we have a tagline that says, I love it when you talk data to me, or we love it when you talk data to us. And I imagine that there was some positivity around that for our three panelists. And so given that our next topic is really about the changes that they saw, let's ask them the common question. We'll certainly start with Jason answering, but how has the use of data management and analytics software changed your business? So Jason, if you would, take it away.
So the key aspect that we're looking for when we moved to ZAP BI was to ensure that we had GL, full GL integration. A lot of BI tools are quite sales-centric, and they're not often tied back to the GL structure. So you end up with two sources of data in a business, which raises questions around integrity if you don't have one source of the truth, etc. So part of our brief right from the start was we needed all our financial reporting to come out of ZAP, and we actually were able to do that relatively quickly. And so what it's enabled is we have much more efficient process at getting our management reporting out, and it's a lot more transparent, and it's a lot easier to slice and dice as we go forward. But the key fundamentals is that we now have one source of the truth. It's accessible. We've got quite an extensive set of reporting and dashboards across all our functional areas, whether they be operations, finance, warehousing, inventory, etc., and for customer service. So A lot of those were built within the first 3 or 6 months and have served the business well for the last 3 years. And then over time, we've added more, I guess, reports and dashboards as our businesses continue to evolve, and as we've plumbed in additional data sources over and above just feeding in the ERP as well. So look, it's made things a lot quicker and more efficient to get the data, but I think it's the real presence of that one source of the truth, and that everyone's looking at the same repository for information, not people trying to cut it different ways from different data sources.
That's really excellent, Jason. Chris, how about we get your perspective on how the use of data management and analytics software has changed your business at Smithies?
I think it has changed our business, and I think the current pandemic has probably brought it to the fore. So previously, reports could take days or weeks to generate. By the time they've been completed, the information is old. Whereas in the current climate and this current pandemic, it's information and live information are absolutely critical to make any strategic decisions. As it's ever evolving on an hourly, daily basis, it's critical that your reporting system and your reporting mechanisms are able to deal with this, and they are live. And that's what we've got now with Zap, is we can dial into any metric within the business in any different function and create a live report in a matter of hours. And this is also the evidence that it's changed our businesses. And in meetings now, the question of where did this data come from is never asked. It's a given that it's the one source of truth, and that is Zap, and it is accurate, and the information will be live, which is something we've not had previously within the organisation.
Those are several good points there, Chris, particularly as it relates to the pandemic. And, we are certainly hoping that those who are watching this now, if they've been adversely affected by the pandemic, that they do have the tools to give them access to the data that they need. With that said, let's finish up on this topic with Rob. Rob, can you tell us if the use of data management and analytics software has changed your business? Thanks.
It has. I think the biggest thing is being able to distribute information quicker and more widely. For instance, all our sales stuff, our production side of things, and also the fact that I think originally when we planned using Zap, it was going to be very much around financial reporting and sales reporting. But actually it's changed how we're doing our production. It's being able to bring together information from the different sides of the business into one report, so we can look at production, current demand, future demand, and then help project where we're going. And while some of this stuff was available in CISPRO, being able to get to it quick and easy, and for lots of people to be able to look at it. So it has actually changed how we're doing our production. And looking at some of those reports really helped us when we were making decisions coming out of lockdown about when to bring staff back and when to get the factory going again. Actually, some people in the business said we brought people back too soon, but actually by getting them back sooner, because we could see the forecast, by having this information together, has actually stood us in good stead now, and it's kept us ahead of our competition. So yeah, it's been very relevant, very recent for us.
So it's quite interesting to have our panelists all answer the question of how has the use of data management and analytics software changed their business. Probably the most interesting thing to me is that there's actually some common themes. And so as we go through a few of those, really the starting point is the single source of truth point that they made. In the case of both Smithies and Micro Scooters, both made the comments that having a single version of the truth or a single source of the truth meant that there really weren't any data questions, and that allowed them to really kind of expand the scope of the reporting that they did across more than just a single area like GL or sales or things of that nature. Secondarily, there were some comments around efficiency, so let's talk to those. In the area of efficiency, we very clearly heard from AJ Wells and Sons, Rob there talking about the ability to distribute information more quickly and more widely across their business. And that was certainly reinforced by, the comments from Chris at Smithy's, where he talked about, that they now were able to get to reports within a matter of hours, whereas previously it took weeks for them to really assemble information for decision makers in their business. And then lastly, microscooters, Jason's been really consistent, throughout the webinar and talking about, the efficiencies that they've gained in dealing with probably a slightly challenging ERP for the purposes of reporting, across multiple areas and the like. So really interesting insights certainly provided by all three of the organizations. The last insight that was really compelling coming from both Chris at Smithy's and AJ Wells was just simply the concept that, during the period of the pandemic, not only was information critical for them from sustaining their operations and things of that nature, but I think that Rob, went so far as to say that it really helped them kind of stay ahead of their competition. And so if you're sitting there and you don't quite have the information at your fingertips to understand what's happening in your business through these kind of dynamic times, certainly these folks and their comments maybe reinforce the need to have a consistent view of the organization and the data within the business so that you can understand as things change, looking across a multitude of different areas. So we now move into one of my favorite topics, and this really is getting and soliciting advice and what to focus on in order to do well with data and analytics. And so we'll start with Chris. And so Chris, your company has automated much of the data management. On top of these things that have changed, are there any surprises that have come up for your team or yourself along the way?
So I think what's caught me most by surprise is the ease of use for Data Hub. When I first started this project, I thought there'd be a transitional period of a couple of months where we'd be heavily relied upon Zap to help us with adding new pipelines to the model and even creating custom calculations. But within the first couple of days, the team were au fait with using the Data Hub. They were creating new pipelines themselves and also adding custom calculations, which were then being dropped directly into Power BI. So this was a really nice surprise, as it meant we could keep up the momentum that would gathered from the quick implementation from the early reports that we circulated within the business. And also, secondly, was going back to my earlier point, is the team. The more and more people that you speak to, they're all as helpful as one another, and that has really helped from the account side of it, from the technology side of it, and then from the HR side of it. So it's such a good team to work with, and when you speak to Zap, you're going to get an honest opinion, and they're going to go out of the way and do their absolute very best to help you. So that has been a really pleasant surprise, that I know that no matter what happens, there's always somebody at Zap that can help us out and we can speak to.
So it brings us to Rob and about the area of focus. Now, Rob, the scope of analytics, I think, increased a bit for AJ Wells and Sons as you got underway. Has the breadth of what you've been able to do been surprising as a result of the tools you've used?
Yeah, as I say, I think we had originally intended to be based on financial reporting and sales, but we've made purchase supplier reports. We're doing a lot of data work and data collection. Simple things like we've built an AR report. When you click on the total amount, it gives you a nice statement, which we put our logos on, which now can be downloaded and sent to dealers, which is a lot quicker than doing it through our ERP. Trying to reprint things was very difficult, and it just ties all the information, whereas before, if you wanted that information in one report, you had to get IT to do it. We can do it a lot quicker now, and to be honest, that's happening in our job manufacturing and our purchasing and our debtors as well as sales. So it is going across our business, and even though we've had a product for a number of months now, I would say pretty much every day someone's banging the door, every week someone's banging the door and asking for, can we just do this report from Zap? And then being able to do it is usually fairly quick, or they can't quite figure it out. There's always a consultant on the end of the phone who can help us pull that information together.
This brings us to Jason, and I know that Microscooters was very diligent in reviewing the solutions that were available at the time. So Jason, was there anything surprising about the capabilities or what you were able to achieve as a result of the selections you made?
Look, I don't think we were surprised by anything in terms of the capability. I think we investigated quite thoroughly what our expectations of outcomes were. And through a couple of demos with Kevin and Bill at the time, we had quite reasonable confidence that it was going to provide and meet our expectations. We did put a lot of effort, and probably a little bit more effort, on the behalf of Kevin and co to ensure that we had that full GL reconciliation. So I don't think any surprises. I think it has met up to our expectations of how we're wanting to rely on it as this single source of the truth. And its reliability has proven very, very good right through the 3.5 years that we've now had it. Response and any fixes or any issues that we have, I guess we're impressed with, and I guess that's the surprise element, is that our lead support, Kevin, is extremely responsive to anything that we ask for. Not that we've been a demanding customer by any means, but we may not talk to him for many months at a time, and then we can get instant responses. So a fantastic service is probably the key call out.
I think it's been really beneficial to hear from each of the panelists, particularly in the area of focus on what is needed. Certainly they've brought forward some key points for us to consider, and not the least of which is the fact that if you have a quick implementation, that naturally builds some momentum on the front end of things. But more so, having the data platform to really consume more than just a single area of data, such as solely sales or solely finance, really is a very compelling thing for the whole of the business. But most importantly, again, is probably the concept of a single source of the truth, which I know was echoed by all of our participants in the panel. So let's turn to them one last time just to see if they have any last advice for companies weighing a manual approach versus more of an automated approach. So let's start with Rob again to see if he has any last advice for companies that are considering a manual approach versus more of an automated approach like they ended up with at AJ Wells.
Yes, I mean, I think for most, like ourselves, most of the business, it's a time versus cost question. I think we could have done it ourselves, but it would have taken a lot longer with everything else that the IT team was working on. So I think what Zap did for us, it got us a lot further down the road, a lot quicker. So yeah, it really is a bit of a time versus cost. And I think the cost to do it is well worth the time saving that it brings in, and just getting that experience of working with someone who's done it before was very relevant to us. I think as well, one thing that I kind of learned about it is even though the implementation phase was quite quick into getting up and running, there is then a long time needed to get all the reports out, to get the user interaction across the business, and to fine tune those reports. And because the reports are fairly quick to build, if they want it a slightly different way, it's not a big thing. Whereas if you're having to build everything from scratch, it can be quite frustrating. You spend some time building a report and then someone wants it slightly differently, which puts you back to square one. So whilst it can be done, I think certainly for us, with our resource and with the time pressure of getting it in, it was certainly a lot easier to go for a product which was flexible but was off the shelf, as it were, could be implemented very quickly.
Thank you for that, Rob. Jason, how about you share some advice for companies as well?
Yeah, look, I think the key couple of recommendations from my point of view is to ensure that you're really clear as a business what reports and dashboards that you want to create and what's their purpose and what's their call to action if you're serving them up, because you can easily create a clutter of reports and dashboards and you can slice for Africa and get paralysis. So I think it's getting really clear with your functional areas, what information do they need to do their job to make them more efficient? What exception reporting do you need that drives action? And I think you just need to spend quite a lot of time at that stage working out what your primary needs are and what reports and dashboards are going to serve those up. Equally, as you migrate to using the tool, you need to spend quite a lot of time data cleansing, particularly in we had 2 entities, so we need to align GL structures. So all that work needs to be done up front, otherwise it makes slicing and dicing quite tricky. So but a bit of upfront lifting and shifting in terms of data cleansing and getting really clear on what the readership base, whether it be customer service or management, what the call to action is out of the reports. As I say, it's very easy to create analysis paralysis.
So that's really excellent, Jason. Thank you. So Chris, what advice do you have that you would give? What would you share?
So what advice would I give? It would be quite simply to book a proof of concept and see Zap Data Hub for yourself. Zap offers the flexibility that I think is absolutely critical in the business environment, especially during a pandemic like this. Here at Smithies, we're able to create custom reports in a matter of hours that we could only have dreamt of 2 years ago. These reports now are helping us drive the business and drive strategy moving forward, and we're able to react and adapt at a drop of a hat. This is absolutely fundamental for what we're trying to achieve and to help us get through the current situation.
It's really great to have the advice and the commentary from Rob and from Jason and from Chris. Really healthy to hear their various perspectives on automated data management. What we didn't necessarily get a chance to look deeply at was the analytics side of what Zap has to offer. So we'll use the software spotlight to just give you a brief glimpse at what is available within Power BI, the Microsoft App Source Catalog, and what's a great starting point for those of you that might be considering what we have to offer. Okay, so we don't have quite a full window of time to do a deep software spotlight today, but one of the things I thought would be really important to touch upon is simply how to get to the prepackaged analytical content that is available through AppSource. And so all you really need to do is come to your browser and actually go to appsource.microsoft.com. And if I go ahead and type in Zap BI here, that'll give us a kind of a filtered list, and you can notice that all of these different items have the ability for you to look a bit further into them. If you actually expand this view, you'll start to see more of those apps themselves, and it's from here that you can get an insight into our AP, our AR, general ledger, sales, manufacturing, and procurement. All of these are available not only for generically for ERPs, but specifically for things like Dynamics 365, SAP Business One, Sage 300, the things that we talked about today with the various users. If you go to peruse them, they'll actually provide more detail. The other way that you can get to basically these same apps is through Power BI. And so here I am within Power BI. If I go back to my home, I've got a number of different elements that are available to me. But many cases you're looking at low to no apps in this particular user interface. And so if I choose to get apps, what I can do is I can do the same search of AppSource, and I'll just search on Zap in this particular case. And I have manufacturing analytics, I have some inventory analytics, AR analytics, and the like. I'll actually go ahead and choose the manufacturing analytics just so you can kind of see how this pops up for us. And what you'll notice is that we have videos, we have some screenshots, we have some other information about what it is that you would be able to get. If I click on the Get It Now button, and I'm already logged in and authenticated by Microsoft.com, then what this allows me to do is install the Power BI app into a workspace that I control. So I'll go ahead and continue the installation, and what we'll get as a result after this downloads is we will actually get the app, and now I can go directly to the app and I can do a couple of things. I can edit my workspace if I want to do some things further prior to sharing. I can connect this to my own data, which in full disclosure, you want to make sure that you have a model that's similar to what Zap Data Hub generates, or even better, talk to us about the potential of taking a look at Zap Data Hub with your own data prior to getting into Power BI. But in this case, we'll just simply choose to explore with sample data. And so what we'll see as it comes up on the screen is you'll notice that there are a number of areas that we've got pre-built metrics that allow for the user, such as yourself, to interact with the sample data, in this case from SAP Business One, and basically ask questions and get answers as you go. So in this particular view from a manufacturing standpoint, I might be interested in various item groups, so I might deselect the select all, and I might be interested in servers and PCs, and going through in that kind of way to look at the different items, or I can just simply choose to select all to go back to where I was previously. There's also a number of different interactions that are supported there. Beyond the slicer based interactions across the top, we can also look in on various different types of reporting. So production orders, how efficient we've been from an efficiency and cost analysis standpoint. There's a variety of things that we can do there, as well as order fulfillment. And in all of these cases, not only do you have the benefit of being able to interact here, but in addition, as is the case with Power BI, we also have the ability to interact with this, over here, by choosing to analyze it further in Excel. So if I click on Analyze in Excel, what it does is it creates an Excel file in my downloads that, as I open this up, and make sure I get it on the correct screen so that everybody can see it, I need to enable editing, and I need to enable the content. And what this provides is it provides a pivot table connection directly back to the model that is stored within the Power BI workspace. That Power BI workspace has been populated with data from SAP Business One using Zap Data Hub. And so it's from here that you can select a variety of different attributes. We won't actually do any building per se, other than to maybe look at production order lines, and look at maybe the job count as an example. Maybe what we'll do is we'll throw the company information in. Sorry, I should use company name instead. That's a little bit better to look at. We'll put the company name on the columns themselves, and maybe we'll scroll down a little bit and look at the resource group, and maybe some element of the resources themselves. So you can see this is a very simple and easy way, if a person is familiar with Excel, familiar with pivot tables, to be working with that same source of the truth that our guests spoke to a little bit earlier, in terms of having one way that everybody could get to the common set of information. And so we won't go any deeper in terms of formatting this Excel, nor will we spend a whole lot more time on this. But if you do want to have more insight into what Zap offers, I would highly encourage that you come to the zapbi.com website. underneath product, you can go to our product view, which will bring you to Zap Data Hub so you can learn a bit more about it. There's certainly an ability to interact with us on the bottom right hand side of the screen, and then in addition we also have the ability to request a demonstration as well. So a number of different ways that you can choose to interact with us. We just certainly hope that you take the opportunity to do so. So that's just a little bit of a spotlight. We'll switch back to the slides. We'll do a little bit of wrap up, and hope that everybody is starting to prepare some of their questions and answers as well. Thanks. As we get to the end of today's webinar, I wanted to run through some key takeaways before we take some questions and answers, and share a little bit of information about upcoming webinars as well. And so to start, really want to thank Rob over at AJ Wells and Sons, Jason at Microscooters, and Chris over at Smithy's. It's really exceptional to be able to offer up the voice of customers like yourselves. We really greatly appreciate it, and representing a diverse portfolio of ERPs from SysPro to Sage to Dynamics is super important, and I think it really does convey the message that regardless of the ERP, Zap Data Hub can certainly support customers or prospective customers. There was certainly a lot of talk about the automation of the data warehouse, the integration of data sources, and the platform being ripe for real Power BI development. And one of the things that I don't know that we got the best chance to get to was to give you an in-depth look at the Power BI analytics that are available on AppSource. The good news is those analytics are out there on AppSource with sample data, so you can readily download them, pull them into Power BI, look and see exactly what your experiences would be regardless of your ERP platform. So with that, we'll shift over to a final set of Q&A and close out the webinar as well.